Dear students of class 11 in Rajshahi College, I welcome you to this class. Uh, in today's class, I will discuss the fourth lesson of Unit 12. In the previous three classes, you got the ideas presented in lessons 1, 2 and 3 with the issues like water, Hakaluki Hour and panda extinction from this world. Today, I will discuss on the threats to tigers of mangrove forest. While reading the third lesson, your teacher discussed how pandas are becoming rare species on Earth nowadays. Similarly, in the lesson dealing with water shows us the importance of water and our responsibility to preserve the water resources. In the second lesson, the teacher discussed on the importance of Hakaluki Haor in the perspectives of Bangladeshi economics and geography. Actually, Unit 12 with the title Nature and Environment focuses on the importance of the natural resources and the threats to those resources, which is increasing day by day, and as a result already a number of natural resources have extinguished and another few ones are in the threats of extinction. Similarly, the tigers in the mangrove forest, this mangrove forest refers to the forest we know, the Sundarbans in the southern part of Bangladesh, in which the living tigers are in the threats of extinction because of the erosion of the forest land, because of the climatic change, because of the excessive use of chemicals that pollute the water resource in the area, etc. and etc. Actually, from both religious and scientific point of views, we have learned that the earth moves on a balanced ecological system. Each and every natural aspect has its necessity, importance and significance in the sustaining of lives. Lives means both human lives and non-human lives as well as the plant lives. Whenever any imbalance falls upon the natural order, falls upon nature and its regular order, whenever there are some pressure, whenever there are the increase of artificial impositions on earth, there comes a change both in the climate and in the ecological balance, which ultimately results in the threats towards humanity as well as the earth. Tigers are ferocious animals, no doubt. I think nobody will willingly approach to tigers. Yet, despite of its violence, despite its various you may call it problems or dangers, tigers are also necessary for the maintaining of ecological balance, particularly in the Sundarbans area or in the mangrove forest situated by the southern part of Bangladesh. You know, as I have called, the Sundarbans is a mangrove forest. I think many of you are not very much aware of the term mangrove, because mangrove is a comparatively less used word in English language, English usage in Bangladesh. Mangrove means tropical trees. In Bangla, mangrove sometimes refers to goran gach or something like that, which has woods and bushes, branches, etc., producing a type of fruits rarely that is used for human eating. Anyway, in this text we will understand mangrove as the existence of tropical long trees with deep roots and large branches, seemingly bushes. A vast mangrove forest shared by Bangladesh and India that is home to possibly 500 Bengal tigers is being rapidly destroyed by erosion, rising sea levels and storm surges, according to a major study by researchers at the Zoological Society of London and others. That is, in the very beginning of the text, in the opening sentence of the text, we get an opinion of Zoological Society of London and other research institutions that the living tigers, possibly 500, more or less 500 in number, is in the threats of extinction and destruction because of the erosion of river in that area situated in both Bangladesh and Indian borders. Also, the destruction of the forest, the erosion of the forest is caused by rising of the sea levels and storm surges because of the high temperature, changing high temperature of of earth, and such things certainly brings a change in the balance in ecological aspects in the Sundarbans areas like any other area on earth. You know, in any structured regular organogram, if there is something added or there is something lost, the balance of that particle also loses its characteristics. Sometimes it becomes useless. Similarly, the decrease in the forest land also endangering the ecological balance of Bangladesh, particularly the adjacent areas near Sundarbans, both in India and in Bangladesh, and at the same time they are more endangering the lives of the tigers or that famous Royal Bengal tigers which can be found only in the Sundarban areas on earth. The Sundarbans forest took the brunt of super cyclone Cedar in 2007, but New satellite studies show that 71% of the forest coastline is retreating by as much as 200 meters a year. That is, you know about the cedar cyclone that came in 2007, devastated the Sundarban areas and the sea coastal areas in Bangladesh. And somehow, Sundarban forest saved the localities around it, near it, by its trees and other plants. But well, from this view, we come to a decision that the trees in Sundarbans, the plants in Sundarbans, not only provide us our necessary oxygen or food or etc., they also protect us from the cyclones like cedar. And how does Sundarban save us from the cyclones like cedar or Amphan, etc.? Because the density of the trees of the area, the density of the trees in the forest protects the wave of the storm, and thus the storms or cyclones become weak when they cross the Sundarbans area, and as a result, people around the Sundarbans gradually are protected from from more devastation, more destruction of lives and wealth of the people. Well, similarly, during the cedar cyclone in 2007, the Sundarbans saved human lives and human structure, infrastructure, human we will call it the constructions of the area. But the alarming news is that new satellite studies show that 71% of the forested coastline is retreating by as much as 200 meters a year. That is, the plants or the trees are decreasing every year, and thus the Sundarban area is losing approximately 200 meters a year. That is, the area of the well, the space of the Sundarbans is increasing, decreasing 200 meters every year. Just imagine, if this decrease rate goes on, what will happen after 20 or 30 years? That is, a time will come when Sundarbans will lose its dense plants and trees, and will lose the ability to protect cyclones, and at the same time there will be a great change both in the climate and ecological system, by which human life will be in a critical condition. Now it is high time we thought about the maintenance of the Sundarbans as it has been traditionally. In the last section of this paragraph, we see a warning of Geological Society of London, or JSL. If erosion continues at this pace, already threatened tiger populations living in the forests will be put further at risk. That is, the real abode of the tigers, real home of the tigers is forest, dense forest, where they are also safe from human poaching or hunting. But if the forest itself starts extinguishing, decreasing the space for the tigers inside the forest will also decrease, and the existence of the tigers in the area will be at a threat in the face of the increasing geographical, ecological, and environmental changes. Now we will observe the report of the JSL Zoological Society of London's and one of the report authors or one of the researchers, Natalie Patorelli, commented that coastline retreat is evident everywhere. What do you mean by the phrase coastline retreat? Coastline means, which we call the areas adjacent to a sea. Of course, here the sea refers to the Bay of Bengal, that is, the decrease in the adjacent areas near the Bay of Bengal is evident everywhere. A continuing rate of retreat would see these parts of mangrove disappear within 50 years. Natalie Petorelli of Zoological Society of London speculates that if there is of the retreat of the seawater continues for the next 50 years, the whole mangrove or the Sundarbans will disappear within 50 years. Just see the just think of the crisis ahead. Only 50 years more in our hand, or less than 50 years. If we do not be aware and take the necessary steps to protect Sundarbans from erosion or coastline retreat, there is a fair possibility that the whole forest will come to an extinction, which will result in the extinction of plants and lives in the Sundarbans, including the tigers and other species habitating there, as well as the plants and the other resources in the Sundarban areas. On the Indian side of the Sundarbans, the island which extends most into the Bay of Bengal has receded by an average of 150 meters a year, with a maximum of just over 200 meters. This would see the disappearance of the island in about 20 years. There are a few islands, in the Indian part of the Sundarbans, such as Morijhapi or Kakdip may also be considered the island in the Indian part of the Bay of Bengal or the Sundarbans, and it is estimated that the islands in the Sundarbans are going to become the victims of the coastline retreat, because not only in the Bangladeshi coastlines but also in the Indian coastlines, there is a recede of average 150 meters a year, such like Bangladesh coastlines, and sometimes the coastline decrease or recede becomes as high as Bangladesh, as sometimes the recede goes up to 200 meters a year. This should see the disappearance of the island in about 20 years. That is, JSL's report speculate that if the average rate of the Sundarban coastline decrease continues within 50 years, the forest area of the Sundarbans will come to an extinction, and the extinction of the islands in the Bay of Bengal in Indian part of the Sundarbans will also disappear within next 20 years. What will happen if the islands disappear? Of course, that will cause an ecological imbalance in the area. The extinction of non-human lives and plants living or existing on those islands. In a few islands, there are also human habitations. Thus, a number of people, whatever their number may be, will lose their habitation, their homes, and in some islands there are a number of plants and corpses cultivated, which will also come to an extinction. Thus, if the ecological balance cannot be maintained from this very moment, that will result in the violent climatic and ecological imbalance, resulting in the destruction of lives and plants in the Sundarban areas. The Sundarbans is known for vanishing islands, but the scientists said that the current retreat of the mangrove forest on the southern coastline is not normal. Because of various tidal surges, because of cyclones, because of rise of water level, many islands have vanished from the bay in the past. Well, that was not considered a great loss because, number one, they are not habitations of human beings or plants or the other species, and those islands which had vanished in the past are not large in area, neither nor there were any cultivation or living in those islands. But the current retreat is a current retreat of the mangrove forest or the coastline is in the face of dangers, as the rate of the retreat or recede of the coastline is not normal. What is more important, this retreat or recede of the coastline is happening upon the forest areas as well as the living of human and other lives. The causes of what is more important. Now notice the causes behind the retreat or recede in the coastline areas. The causes for increasing coastline retreat, other than direct anthropological ones, include increased frequency of storm surges and other extreme natural events, rises the sea level and increased salinity, which increases the vulnerability of mangroves. Well, here ZSL or Zoological Society of London thinks that, or the researchers of JSL and other research institutions think that the causes of the increasing coastline retreat is not because of human behavior. Apart from the human behavior, such as deforestation, poaching, hunting elements, pouring polluted chemicals, wastes on the rivers inside the Sundarbans, they are sometimes causing the retreat of mangrove forests or the destruction of a number of plants and even minor mangrove habitats like the animals or species. There is the most important one is that there is the increase, there is an increase in the storm surges and other natural disasters which are also responsible for the retreat of the coastline or the loss of the mangrove forest, as well as there is an increase in the salinity or salty water, which is causing the vulnerability of the mangrove trees in the forest, mangroves or the forest. You know, the excess of saline water or salty water causes the destruction of plants, and thus because of the storm surges and other extreme natural events like causes the rise in the sea level. And what is more alarming is that the salinity or the level of salt in the sea water is also increasing day by day, which at the same time increases the vulnerability or the safety of the mangrove forest. Particularly, the researcher who wrote the report on the possible extinction of the Sundarbans also commented that our results indicate, the results of their research, the index of their results indicate a rapidly retreating coastline that cannot be accounted for by the regular dynamics of the Sundarbans. Well, there is a contradiction in the report, as Petroli's report says that the results indicate a rapidly retreating coastline, but it cannot be accounted by the regular dynamics of the Sundarbans. That is, the coastline retreat is neither regular nor remarkable. There is a gradual, slow and also unnoticeable retreating, which is more threatening, which is more dangerous in nature, because there is a sudden change sorry, because if the change is sudden and deep or high in level or in volume, that can be noticed, and awareness gradually and naturally develops in the behavior of the human beings. But as the change is taking place slowly and gradually, the changes are often overlooked. And thus degradation is happening fast. Because of such an unawareness to the climatic, ecological and natural and environmental changes, the degradation of the forest areas, the retreat of the coastline, the you may say erosion of the forest areas are happening fast, as well as the weakening of the natural shield for India and Bangladesh are also getting weak. What do you mean by the natural shield? Just notice the phrase natural shield. The Sundarbans is called a natural shield for both India and Bangladesh, as in the previous paragraph. As from the previous paragraph, we have learned that against the cyclones like cedars or amphans, or very recently happened Josh, the Sundarbans give a protection. The Sundarbans weaken the density, the speed of the storms and cyclones, and thus the Sundarbans protect human beings and life in the Sundarban areas. But if the slow and gradual retreating of the coastal areas continues happening, if there is the recede in the coastal areas, if there is the destruction of forest life continues, degradation, the first degradation of the coastal areas is inevitable, and the degradation of the coastal areas, of the coastline areas will also weaken the natural shield like the Sundarbans for both India and Bangladesh. As human development thrives, we have another opinion by another researcher in this field. She is Sarah Christie. Sarah Christie is in particular Zoological Society of London's tiger expert. Now we are coming to the point. There is a relation between the extinction of the tiger species from the Sundarbans and the climatic and ecological changes in the Sundarban areas. The relation is discovered by, cited by, and also taken into notice by Sarah Christie, who thinks that the change in the climatic and ecological change in the Sundarban areas will result, along with many other bad effects or impacts on life, the it will also bring a change in the life of the tigers, even that may cause, the changes may cause the extinction of the tiger species from the Sundarbans. One thing that you must notice, that you must remember that Geological Society of London and such institutions related to the forest life are very much concerned of the extinction of the tigers from the Sundarbans, because the most famous tiger species has their abode in the Sundarbans, that is popularly known, worldwide known as the Royal Bengal tigers. Other than the Sundarbans, you will see the existence of the Royal Bengal tigers nowhere on earth. There are tigers like many other species, and what is the difference difference between the Royal Bengal tigers and the other types of tigers is that Royal Bengal tigers are born and live only in the Sundarbans, in no other forest on earth. But other types of tigers grow more than one forests on earth, thus their extinction will not cause much change in the earthly and geographical life which is related to human existence in the coastline areas and beyond. So, Sarah Christie gives the opinion that as human development thrives and global temperature continues to rise, natural protection from tidal waves and cyclones is being degraded at alarming rates. The natural protection that the coastline inhabitants or the dwellers of the coastline areas enjoy, the natural protection by the Sundarbans, but the natural protection may lose its strength against the tidal waves and cyclones because of the global change in the global temperature, because of the rise of the global temperature, and also the development of the development of life is also responsible, is also related with the possible threat to the life around the Sundarbans. And the degrading of the forest land or the degrading of the protective power of the mangrove forest against the tidal waves and the cyclones will inevitably lead to a species loss in this richly biodiverse part of the world. Well, the Sundarbans is called a part with biodiversity, or the Sundarban is here appreciated for its multiple, its various kind of species. A variety of species have their home or abode in the Sundarbans, and if the natural protection from the tidal waves decreases, continues its decrease, it will inevitably lead to the destruction and extinction of lives from the Sundarbans areas, and the area which is rich for its biodiversity, which is famous for its biodiversity, will lose its species one after another, and the biodiverse character of the area of the mangroves forest area will also come to an end if nothing is done to stop it. That is, according to the suggestion of Sarah Christie, according to her opinion, there is something to do to stop the change, the climatic change or the change in the Sundarban areas. How, what can be done to stop the loss of biodiversity, to stop the loss of diversity, or to sustain the biodiversity in the Sundarbans areas. Sarah Christie gives some suggestions. She says the Sundarbans is a critical tiger habitat, one of only a handful of remaining forests big enough to hold several hundred tigers. That is, as I have said, the Royal Bengal tigers can be found, the Royal Bengal tigers are born only in the Sundarbans areas, the habitat only in the Sundarbans areas, and the area that the Sundarbans has this time is not enough to hold several hundred tigers. Though at present it is considered that there are 500 Royal Bengal tigers in the Sundarbans area, but that is not sufficient for more hundreds of tigers. Therefore, at any cost, the loss of the Sundarbans must be stopped. The decrease of the land areas, coastline around Sundarbans must be stopped. To lose the Sundarbans would be to move a step closer to the extinction of these majestic animals. Finally, Sarah Christie comments that if the Sundarbans extincts, disappears or becomes weak, that will at the same time result the extinction of the majestic animals like the Royal Bengal tigers. Thus, from the discussions of Sarah Christie and Natalie Petrelli, we get two things. One, there is a threatening and alarming climatic, ecological and geographical changes in the Sundarban areas like the other parts of the world because of the climatic change, rise in temperature, increase in storms, cyclones and tidal surges. And the other one is that such natural disasters or such changes in the ecological and natural orders will cause not only the change in the forest areas, but also they may result in the extinction of certain rare species, in the sense that which are available, which are born only in the Sundarbans areas, such as the Royal Bengal tigers. Dear students, I have so far discussed the text in details so that you can have the ideas about the changes in nature, in the ecological balance, as well as you can also get an idea about the threats towards the life of the tigers in the Sundarbans areas. While reading the text again for your preparation for the examination, you should be aware of the threats towards nature as well as the threats towards the existence of the tigers in the Sundarbans areas, and you should also notice the reasons behind the changes, the nature of the changes in the coastline, particularly the regions behind the retreat and recede of the coastline every year. I think if you bring these points in your mind, keep these points in your mind while reading the text, I hope you will have a nice, productive, fruitful idea about the climatic change. Well, as I told at the beginning of this class that Unit 12 in English for today for classes 11 and 12 deals with the aspects of nature and environment, and in particular the changes, recent changes or changing trends in the orders of nature and environment, and there is a view behind the studies as you read in your textbook, that is the changes in the climate, in the ecology, in nature, in environment are gradually, practically endangering the existence of human beings. To save humanity, to save the civilization from the disasters, it is high time we became aware of the threats ahead. With such a view, these issues included in different lessons in Unit 12 are suggested for the studies of the students. I hope you have got an idea how climate is changing in the coastlines, as well as how the change in the climatic change, ecological change, or the natural and environmental changes in the coastal areas, making life and plantation in the areas at a stake. At the same time, you have also got the idea from the text that the biodiversity or the variety of species in the Sundarbans are also in the face of a danger of extinction. So, thus I like to call an end of today's class. Thank you all for attending the class. Thank you all for taking part in the class. In the next class, on 13th of June, the last section of Unit 12 will be read by possibly by my colleague, our esteemed colleague, Mr. Mohammad. Thank you all. Thank you for today.